दास भज रे गुरु चरणम दुस्तर भव सागर तरम।
कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वारेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामविद्रयवतो गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। ओम भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ओम भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्सुवः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नमो तस्सा भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्सा बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि संघं शरणं गच्छामि। अशीवहु वहिष्ठेमस्ति उष्टास्ति उष्टाह्मा यदशा वहिष्ठायशेम श्मा इस्राएल Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. 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 La ilaha illallah Allah Allah. La ilaha illallah Allah Allah. La ilaha illallah Allah Allah. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. But lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Oh. साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। शुक्लाम्बरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदं तं भक्तानां एकदन्तम् उपास्महे। एकदन्तम् उपास्महे। पाहि गजानन दीनावना
पाहि गजानन दीनावना
पाहि गजानन दीनावना
पाहि गजानन दीनावना
सिन्दूरवदना श्रितजनपालना
सिन्दूरवदना श्रितजनपालना
सिन्दूरवदना श्रितजनपालना
सिन्दूरवदना श्रितजनपालना
पाहि गजानन दीनावना
पाहि गजानन दीनावना
अंबिका तनया अमराधीश्वर अंबिका तनया अमराधीश्वर अगणित गुण गण आनंददाय अगणित गुण गण आनंददाय पाहि गजानन दीनावना
पाहि गजानन
पाहि गजानन दीनावना गुरुदेव महादेव साई देव महादेव साई गुरुदेव महादेव साई महादेव साई देव गुरुदेव महादेव साई ब्रह्मा विष्णु साई देव ब्रह्मा विष्णु साई देव सत्य साई गुरु ब्रह्मा विष्णु साई देव सत्य साई गुरु सत्य साई गुरु महादेव सत्य साई गुरु महादेव गुरुदेव महादेव साई देव
जगदीश्वरी दया करो माँ
जगदीश्वरी दया करो माँ
जगदीश्वरी दया करो माँ
जगदीश्वरी दया करो माँ
शिव शंकरी कृपा 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 करो माँ
साईश्वरी रक्षा करो माँ साईश्वरी रक्षा करो माँ
शंकरी कृपा करो माँ। शिव शंकरी कृपा करो माँ।
जगदीश्वरी दया करो माँ।
जगदीश्वरी दया करो माँ।
शिव शंकरी कृपा करो माँ।
शिव शंकरी कृपा करो माँ।
साईश्वरी रक्षा करो माँ।
साईश्वरी रक्षा करो माँ।
रक्षा करो माँ।
रक्षा करो माँ।
साईश्वरी रक्षा करो माँ।
साईश्वरी रक्षा करो माँ।
परमेश्वरी भला करो माँ।
परमेश्वरी भला करो माँ।
शिव शंकरी कृपा 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 करो माँ।
जगदीश्वरी दया करो माँ।
जय जगदीश हरे, जय गोविंद हरे। 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 नित्यानंदा ब्रह्मानंदा, जय गोपाल हरे। जय नित्यानंदा ब्रह्मानंदा, जय गोपाल हरे। नित्यानंदा ब्रह्मानंदा, जय गोपाल हरे। जय नित्यानंदा ब्रह्मानंदा, जय गोपाल हरे। अरुणाचल शिव त्रिशूलधार शिव। अरुणाचल शिव त्रिशूलधार शिव। अरुणाचल शिव त्रिशूलधार शिव। अरुणाचल शिव त्रिशूलधार शिव। हरि नारायण ओम, साई नारायण ओम।
जय देवी भारती विद्यादायिनी अन्नपूर्णमतो। जय जगदीश हरे जय गोविंद हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय गोविंद हरे। नित्यानंदा ब्रह्मानंदा जय गोपाल हरे जय नित्यानंदा ब्रह्मानंदा जय गोपाल हरे। अरुणाचल शिव त्रिशूलधार शिव अरुणाचल शिव त्रिशूलधार शिव हरिनारायण साई नारायण हरिनारायण साई नारायण। जय देवी भारती विद्यादायिनी अन्नपूर्ण माता। 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 जय जगदीश हरे जय गोविंद हरे।
राम रहीम हो साई कृष्णा बुद्ध साई
राम रहीम हो साई कृष्ण बुद्ध साई
राम रहीम हो साई कृष्णा बुद्ध साई
राम रहीम हो साई कृष्ण बुद्ध साई।
सौराष्ट्र यीशु साई महावीर भी हो साई
सौराष्ट्र यीशु साई महावीर भी हो साई
सौराष्ट्र यीशु साई महावीर भी हो साई
सौराष्ट्र यीशु साई महावीर भी हो साई।
राम रहीम हो साई कृष्णा बुद्ध साई
राम रहीम हो साई कृष्ण बुद्ध साई
सर्वधर्म पालक हे प्रेम रूप साई
सर्वधर्म पालक है प्रेम रूप साई
सर्वधर्म पालक हे प्रेम रूप साई
सर्वधर्म पालक है प्रेम रूप साई
सर्वजना रक्षक साई राम एक राम
सर्वजना रक्षक साई राम एक राम
सर्वजना रक्षक साई राम एक राम
सर्वजना रक्षक साई राम एक राम।
राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम
राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम
राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम
राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम।
राम रहीम हो साई कृष्णा बुद्ध साई
राम रहीम हो साई कृष्ण बुद्ध साई
सौराष्ट्र यीशु साई महावीर भी हो साई
सौराष्ट्र यीशु साई महावीर भी हो साई
राम रहीम हो साई कृष्णा बुद्ध साई
राम रहीम हो साई कृष्ण बुद्ध साई
सर्वधर्म पालक हे प्रेम रूप साई
सर्वधर्म पालक है प्रेम रूप साई,
सर्व जना रक्षक साई राम एक राम।
सर्व जना रक्षक साई राम एक राम।
राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम।
राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम।
राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम।
राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम रहीम साई राम।
राम रहीम हो साई कृष्णा बुद्धा साई।
अल्लाह तुम हो, ईश्वर तुम हो, तुम ही हो राम रहीम, तुम ही हो राम रहीम। अल्लाह तुम हो, ईश्वर तुम हो, तुम ही हो राम रहीम, तुम ही हो राम रहीम।
अल्लाह तुम हो, ईश्वर तुम हो, तुम ही हो राम रहीम, तुम ही हो राम रहीम।
अल्लाह तुम हो, ईश्वर तुम हो, तुम ही हो राम रहीम, तुम ही हो राम रहीम।
अल्लाह तुम हो, ईश्वर तुम हो, तुम ही हो राम रहीम, तुम ही हो राम रहीम।
मेरे राम 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 राम रहीम।
ईसु तुम हो, नानक तुम हो।
ईशु तुम हो, नानक तुम हो।
ईसु तुम हो, नानक तुम हो।
ईशु तुम हो, नानक तुम हो।
सौराष्ट्र भी हो, महावीर तुम हो।
ज़ोराष्ट्र भी हो, महावीर तुम हो।
सौराष्ट्र भी हो, महावीर तुम हो।
ज़ोराष्ट्र भी हो, महावीर तुम हो।
गौतम बोध
गौतम
करी।
बोध करी।
गौतम बोध करी।
मेरे राम राम रहीम।
मेरे राम राम रहीम।
मेरे राम राम रहीम।
मेरे राम
मेरे राम राम रहीम। मेरे राम राम रहीम।
We are blessed, we are blessed, we are blessed. Sai Baba is watching over us.
We are blessed, we are blessed. Sai Baba is watching over us.
We are blessed, we are blessed, we are blessed. Sai Baba is watching over us.
We are blessed, we are blessed, we are blessed.
We are here to sing your sweet name.
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 Let the light of your glory shine on us.
Let the light of your glory shine on us.
Let the light of your glory shine on us. Bless us all with your presence, Gurudev.
Bless us all with your presence, Gurudev.
We are blessed, we are blessed, we are blessed.
We are blessed, we are blessed, we are blessed.
No more tears, no more sorrow, no more death. Banish the darkness with your love.
Banish the darkness with your love.
Baba, banish the darkness with your love.
Baba, banish the darkness with your love.
We are born in the golden age of sun.
We are born in the golden age of sun.
And we receive the love divine.
Let me miss you with your light divine.
And we receive the love divine.
Let me miss you with your light divine.
We are blessed, we are blessed, we are blessed. Sai Baba is watching over us.
Blessed, we are blessed, we are blessed.
We are here to sing your sweet name. Let the light of your glory shine on us. Bless us all with your presence, Gurudev. We are blessed, we are blessed, we are blessed. No more tears, no more sorrow, no more death. Baba, banish the darkness with your love. We are born in the golden age of sun. And we receive the love divine. And we receive the love divine. We are blessed, we are blessed, we are blessed. Sai Baba is watching over us.
Hare Ganga Jatadhara Gowri Shankar Girija Manaramana. Hare Ganga Jatadhara Gowri Shankar Girija Manaramana. Gajatadhar Gowri Shankar Girija Manaramana.
Hare Ganga Jatadhara Gowri Shankar
जय मृत्युंजय महादेव महेश्वर मंगल शुभ चरणा मृत्युंजय महादेव महेश्वर मंगल शुभ चरणा नंदिवाहना नागभूषणा नंदिवाहना नागभूषणा निरुपम गुण सदना निरुपम गुण सदना नतन मनोहर नीलकंठ साई नतन मनोहर नीलकंठ साई नीरज दल नयना साई नीरज दल नयना हर गंग जटाधर गौरी शंकर गिरिजा मन रमना जय मृत्युंजय महादेव महेश्वर मंगल शुभ चरणा आनंदिवाहना नागभूषणा नंदिवाहना निरुपम गुण सदना साई निरुपम गुण सदना नतन मनोहर नीलकंठ साई नतन मनोहर नीलकंठ साई नीरज दल नयना साई नीरज दल नयना हर गंग जटाधर गौरी शंकर गिरिजा मन रमणा
विष्णु सच्चिदानंद वेणु गोपाल बाल
विष्णु सच्चिदानंद वेणु गोपाल बाबा
विष्णु सच्चिदानंद वेणु गोपाल बाल
विष्णु सच्चिदानंद वेणु गोपाल बाबा
कृष्णा रामा गोविंद हरि हरि
कृष्ण रामा गोविंद हरि हरि
कृष्णा रामा गोविंद हरि हरि
Krishna Rama Govinda Hare Hare
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 Vishnu Satchidananda Venu Gopala Bala
Vishnu Satchidananda Venu Gopala Bala
Krishna Rama Govinda Hare Hare
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 Krishna Rama Govinda Hare
Govinda Hare Hare Govinda Hare 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 Hare
Govinda Hare Hare
Govinda Hare Hare Govinda Hare Hare
Govinda Hare Hare Govinda Hare Hare
Govinda Hare Hare Govinda Hare Hare
Govinda Hare Hare Govinda Hare Hare
Govinda Hare Hare Govinda Hare Hare
Govinda Hare Hare Govinda Hare
Hari
Hare
Govinda Hare Hare Govinda Hare Hare
Govinda Hare Hare Govinda Hare Hare Vishnu
Rama
Govinda Hare
Hare
Sai Rama 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 Sai Rama Sai Rama Rama Hare Hare Sai Rama 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 Sai Rama Sai Rama Rama Hare Hare जो साई नाम गुण गाता है वो भव सागर तर जाता है जो साई नाम
तर जाता है
जो साई नाम गुण गाता है वो भव सागर तर जाता है
जो साई नाम गुण गाता है वो भव सागर तर जाता है
वो साई नाम गुण गाता है जो भव सागर तर जाता है
जो साई नाम गुण गाता है वो भव सागर तर जाता है
जो साई नाम गुण गाता है वो भव सागर तर जाता गाता है वो भव सागर तर जाता है।
जो साई राम गुण गाता है वो भव सागर तर जाता है।
ओ साई रामा 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 साई रामा रामा हरे हरे साई रामा रामा
साई राम हरे हरे।
साई रामा 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 साई रामा रामा हरे हरे। जो साई राम गुण गाता है वो भव सागर तर जाता है। साई राम जो साई राम गुण गाता है वो भव सागर तर जाता है। जो साई राम गुण गाता है वो भव सागर तर जाता है। जो साई राम गुण गाता है वो भव सागर तर जाता है। ओ साई रामा 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 साई रामा रामा हरे हरे। बोलो ओ साई रामा रामा हरे हरे साई रामा रामा हरे हरे।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की।
मान की
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की।
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी
जय बोलो हनुमान की
जय बोलो हनुमान की
जय जय बोलो हनुमान की
जय जय बोलो हनुमान की
जय जय बोलो हनुमान की
राम लक्ष्मण जानकी जय बोलो हनुमान की
வேலவா வேலவா வேல் முருகா வா வா
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 வேல் முருகா வா வா வேல் முருகா வா வா
வேல் முருகா வா வா வேல் முருகா வா வா
வேல் முருகா வா வா வடிவேல் முருகா வா வா
வேல் முருகா வா வா வடிவேல் முருகா வா வா
ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வடிவேலவா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வடிவேலவா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
சூராதி சூரா சுப்பிரமணிய தேவா
சூராதி சூரா சுப்பிரமணிய தேவா
சூராதி சூரா சுப்பிரமணிய தேவா
சூராதி சூரா சுப்பிரமணிய தேவா
ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வடிவேலவா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வடிவேலவா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
ஷண்முக 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 ஷண்முக
ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக
ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக
ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக
ஹரோ ஹரா ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வடிவேலவா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வடிவேலவா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வேலவா வேலவா வேல் முருகா வா வா
வேலவா வேலவா வேல் முருகா வா வா
வேல் முருகா வா வா வடிவேல் முருகா வா வா
வேல் முருகா வா வா வடிவேல் முருகா வா வா
ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
சிவா ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
சூராதி சூரா சுப்பிரமணிய தேவா
சூராதி சூரா சுப்பிரமணிய தேவா
ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
சிவா ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வடிவேலவா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வடிவேலவா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
ஷண்முக 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 ஷண்முக
ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக
ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக
ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக
ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வடிவேலவா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
முருகா முருகா
ஹே ஷண்முக 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 ஷண்முக
ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஹே
ஷண்முக 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 ஷண்முக
ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக ஷண்முக
ஹரோ ஹரா ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
ஷண்முகா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வடிவேலவா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வடிவேலவா சரவணா முருகா முருகா
வேலவா
வேலவா வேல் முருகா வா
வா
சுந்தர வதனி सुगुण मनोहरी सुंदर वदनी सुगुण मनोहरी मंदहास मुख शशिवदनी मंदहास मुख मंदहास मुख शशिवदनी चंदन कुंकुम अलंकृत वदनी चंदन कुंकुम अलंकृत वदनी साई महेश्वरी राज राजेश्वरी संजय साई महेश्वरी राज राजेश्वरी ओम शक्ति 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 शक्ति ओम शक्ति ओम शक्ति ओम शक्ति ओम शक्ति ओम शक्ति सुंदर वदनी सुगुण मनोहरी मंदहास मुख शशिवदनी चंदन कुंकुम अलंकृत वदनी साई महेश्वरी राज राजेश्वरी संजय साई महेश्वरी राज राजेश्वरी साई ओम शक्ति 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 शक्ति ओम 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 सुंदर वदनी सुगुण मनोहरी।
ईश्वराम्बा प्रियनन्दना
ईश्वराम्बा प्रियनन्दना
ईश्वराम्बा प्रियनन्दना
ईश्वराम्बा प्रियनन्दना
साई जय जगवन्दना
साई जय जगवन्दना
साई जय जगवन्दना
साई जय जगवन्दना
रत्नाकर कुलभूषणा
रत्नाकर कुलभूषणा
रत्नाकर कुलभूषणा
रत्नाकर कुलभूषणा
राजीवनयना नारायणा
राजीवनयना नारायणा
राजीवनयना नारायणा
राजीवनयना नारायणा
नारायणा साई 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 नारायणा
ईश्वराम्बा प्रियनन्दना
ईश्वराम्बा प्रियनन्दना
साई जय जगवन्दना
साई जय जगवन्दना
साई जय जगवन्दना
साई जय जगवन्दना
रत्नाकर कुलभूषणा
रत्नाकर कुलभूषणा
राजीवनयना नारायणा
राजीवनयना नारायणा
नारायणा साई नारायणा
नारायणा साई नारायणा
नारायणा साई नारायणा
नारायणा साई नारायणा
नारायणा साई
नारायणा साई नारायणा
नारायणा साई नारायणा
बोलो नारायणा साई नारायणा
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 बोलो नारायणा साई नारायणा
नारायणा साई नारायणा
नारायणा साई नारायणा
नारायणा साई नारायणा
हे नारायणा साई नारायणा
नारायणा साई नारायणा
हे नारायणा साई नारायणा
साई जय जगवन्दना साई नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो
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 महादेव बोलो जय पांडुरंग 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 बोलो
साई नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो
साई नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो
राम कृष्ण बोलो जय बुद्ध साई 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 बोलो
सौराष्ट्र महावीर यीशु साई बोलो
सौराष्ट्र महावीर यीशु साई बोलो
सौराष्ट्र सौराष्ट्र महावीर यीशु साई बोलो
सौराष्ट्र महावीर यीशु साई बोलो
अल्लाह साई बोलो मौला 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 साई बोलो
प्रेम साई शांति दाई सत्य 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 साई बोलो
साई नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो
साई नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो
महादेव बोलो जय पांडुरंग बोलो
महादेव
बोलो जय पांडुरंग बोलो
साई नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो
साई नाम बोलो गोविंद नाम बोलो
राम कृष्ण बोलो जय बुद्ध साई बोलो
राम कृष्ण बोलो जय बुद्ध साई बोलो
सौराष्ट्र महावीर यीशु साई बोलो
सौराष्ट्र महावीर यीशु साई बोलो
अल्लाह साई बोलो मौला 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 साई बोलो
प्रेम साई शांति दाई सत्य 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 साई बोलो
गोविंद बोलो गोपाल 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 बोलो
प्रेम साई शांति दाई सत्य साई बोलो
शांति 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 Sairam. At this time, I would formally like to introduce Brother Rushi. So, as many of you all would have seen from the flyer that was circulated, Brother Rushi and his family has been fortunate to be a long-standing devotee of Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba for more than 55 years. From early childhood, Brother Rushi would have been performing in Balvika skits for Swami in Prashanti. Up to a few years ago, I believe, he sang and played numerous instruments at Sai Kulwant Hall at Prashanti. At this time, he is the Deputy International Young Adults Coordinator. So his job takes him far and wide. Over the last few months, he has been to so many countries doing bhajan workshops. Yesterday, he had the privilege of being at the Shagonas Sai Center to conduct a bhajan workshop. And today, what we would like to do is, for those of you who were present yesterday, not that you would miss anything that he would be continuing from yesterday, but it's not that you would have, he would do it in such a way where you can follow. So I would just like to introduce Brother Rushi to go up on stage. Sairam.
सर्वरूपधरं शान्तं सर्वनामधरं शिवं सच्चिदानन्दम् अद्वैतं सत्यं शिवं सुन्दरं सच्चिदानन्दम् अद्वैतं सत्यं शिवं सुन्दरम्. Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba, our dear Lord, our God, seated in our midst, is the most beautiful, the most auspicious. May his form forever be in front of our mind's eyes. May the fragrance of his robe, that jasmine sandalwood scent, always surround us. And may we always be in that constant integrated awareness of his divine presence. Loving Sairams, dear sisters and brothers and respected elders, I offer myself at the divine lotus feet of my Guru, God, and best friend, Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. Thank you so much to the Shri Sathya Sai Center of Marabella for this wonderful, warm welcome. The Thank You Swami team and the Shri Sathya Sai International Organization of Trinidad and Tobago for allowing me this wonderful opportunity to come and just share my love for Swami and my love for bhajans with all of you. Special thanks also to Brother Vishal, Brother Shisti, and Brother Vishal for so beautifully arranging this trip and for all the loving Trinidadian hospitality that you have shown in the last 3 days. So thank you so much. Your food is absolutely amazing here. It's been such a pleasure being with you over the last 3 days. I'm looking forward to more wonderful satsang in the remaining 3 days of this trip. So yesterday we were talking about some best practices about bhajans and how we would perfect the individual unit of the bhajan and also the overall session. So today I want to work a little backwards. And again, I want this session to be very interactive. Please, we are all one family. I am not a guest here. Please consider me to be one amongst you. Please consider me for the elders. Consider me to be your son. For the brothers and sisters here, please consider me to be your own sibling. So please, if I say anything wrong or anything maybe insensitive, I ask for your forgiveness in advance. We're all family here, and I'm here to be fully open and fully vulnerable to all of you. So just a blanket disclaimer. So let's work a little bit backwards today. How do we end a bhajan session? Anybody want to answer that? How do we end a bhajan session? Something more? What do we do before Samastaloka? Perfect. That's the answer I'm looking for. Arati. So, there are so many different meanings to Arati. We wave this camphor flame in front of Swami. But what is the true significance behind doing Arati? Now, as a young child, I was very fascinated with Arati and lights and fire and all those pyrotechnic effects that are associated with Arati. As Brother Vishal might know, my home altar is decorated with hundreds of LED lights, and that aspect of light is just something that grabs my attention very strongly. And so when we take this fire and we wave it around Swami, though it may seem like a mundane act, right? Many times in the Sai organization, when we end emails, we'll say, with love and light, Om Shri Sai Ram, Rushi Thanawala, right? What is really that love and light? I think there's no better manifestation, no better way to understand Swami's love and Swami's light than through the process of Mangala Arati. The word Arti, if we slightly mispronounce it as Arthi, can mean difficulty. So one of the feelings behind Arati is Swami. Of course, who are we to protect Swami or defend Swami? He is the supreme personality of Godhead. But one of the, especially in the Krishna Vaishnava tradition, one of the bhavas or feelings that the devotees have when they go to perform arati is that the word arati stands for difficulty. God has been solving all of our problems, taking away all of our difficulties. And so when we offer this arati to Him, in that fire, they believe that they are burning all of God's suffering. Of course, God has no suffering. Swami has, even when Swami had the hip fracture in June 2003, Swami told the doctors, Swami was asked by the doctors, Swami, are you suffering? You have so much suffering. So Swami said, I have pain. Pain is there, but there is no suffering. So of course, God has no suffering. But in that feeling of friendship, we feel, Swami, you have worked so hard. So in this fire, let all of your pain, in true essence, it's our pain. Let all of our pain be burnt. And of course, as Swami himself has said in one of his discourses, I don't remember the exact reference, but that camphor that is lit, let our lives be like that camphor. May our lives be like that camphor, that when burnt, nothing remains. Pure camphor leaves no residue. It is pure. All it does is gives light. And that is a prayer that we have to Swami when we sing arati and we perform arati to Him. And so every time I travel to Puttaparthi, I have this tradition that I buy a new arati handle or a new arati plate to bring back home. And now I have a collection of like a dozen different aratis. I just bought one yesterday from one of the puja stores here. So, arati, something to me is very important, and I'm very passionate about it. In fact, I've been playing tabla for, oh God, this is giving away my age, but I've been playing tabla for more than 2 decades with Swami's grace and the blessings of the gurus that have taught me. One of my most favorite aspects of a bhajan session to play tabla for is verily the Mangala Arati. Few things about the mechanics of how we sing Arati. Again, I don't mean to come across as offensive or insensitive. These are just a few, I would say, gaps that I have noticed when I've heard people sing Arati all over the world. This is not in particular to Trinidad. I've heard this in India, Canada, and all the countries I've been blessed to travel to. I've seen that sometimes we make some mistakes in Arati because either we have not heard it or learned it properly, or we have we've paid so much attention to the bhajan session. Yesterday we talked about how do we create that perfect vibration. And then by the time we get to the Arati, it's like, okay, fine, all the stress is done. Now we just have to do Arati and eat prasad and leave. But Arati should be given even more focus than the entire bhajan session. And so we have to understand that the Arati that we sing, Om Jai Jagadisha Hare, is actually one of the shortest Aratis that has existed. Long before, this Arati that we sing today actually only came about in the early 60s. Prior to that, when Swami was probably in his late 20s, in his early 20s, he inaugurated the old mandir in Prashant in Puttaparthi. It was an old tin shed built on land donated by Karanam Subbamma, Swami's foster mother. And in that temple, Swami himself was the priest, the public relations officer, the bhajan coordinator, the bhajan singer, everything was Swami. And so Swami himself would be offering arati in that temple. And the song that the devotees would sing while Swami would offer arati, I just know the first 2 lines of it. Pavan Purusha Saisha Charanar Kama Sarvesha Saumya Rupa Sathya Baba. So that's how the arati was in the past. It wasn't as energetic as it is today. Then slowly Swami's name and fame started spreading to different parts of India. Swami started visiting royal palaces, Rajamatas and all these kings and queens were hosting Swami, and Swami would go there and he would lead these devotional sessions where he would just be singing Tyagaraja Kirtanas. Tyagaraja as you may know, is a very eminent composer, devotee of Lord Rama who lived, a few hundred years ago, and he composed thousands of songs on Lord Rama, and so Swami would sing these songs himself. And so once Swami started traveling and his glory became widely known by people, then a different arti was soon composed. Pujintamu man saini, jaya saini, sarveshuni, jagadishwari. But then soon more people from North India started coming. And in North India, as you may all be familiar, in a lot of the Hindu temples here in Trinidad and Tobago, you must be familiar with this arti. Om Jai Jagadisha Hare, Swami Jai Jagadisha Hare, Bhakta Jano ke sankat, Das Jano ke sankat, Kshan mein dur kare, Om Jai Jagadisha Hare. And so the devotees who were with Swami in the early 60s, they wanted to accommodate the devotees from the north while also sticking true to the roots of Swami's birthplace, which is in Andhra Pradesh, and the native language of Swami is Telugu. And so they composed an arati in Telugu which conforms to the same tune as the Om Jai Jagadisha Hare. So this is the story of how the arati that we sing today evolved. So we need to understand that the arati we sing, yes, while it has many Sanskrit terminologies, in fact, the entire arati is purely composed in Telugu. Some of Telugu and Sanskrit are very similar languages, and so there are words which overlap between Sanskrit and Telugu, but then there are some words which are very specific to the language of Telugu. And we may not even realize it, but of course, the first stanza is mainly in Sanskrit. Om Jai Jagadisha Hare, Swami Sathya Sai Hare, Bhaktajana Samrakshaka, the protector of the devotees, Parti Maheshwara, the Lord of Puttaparthi. Then we have Sashivadana Shrikara. Sashivadana meaning the one who has the face bright yet calm like the moon. Shrikara, the one who gives auspiciousness, the one who does auspicious actions. Sarva Pranapate, the Lord of our breath. Right? There are so many beautiful ways that this arati is describing Bhagavan Shri Satya Sai Baba. When we go into this line, Sashivadana Shrikara Sarva Pranapate. Pranapate, we sing this arti every day. In Parthi, we sing this arti 2 times a day. But I make the same mistake that, I'm so involved in the heat of playing tabla and, getting the bhajan session wrapped up because I'm just excited to eat that prasad after the session is done. Right? So I'm rushing through the arti myself. But if we take a step back and we notice how much meaning is latent in the arati that we end our bhajan session with, that even you take one word of the arati, you can think of a dozen bhajans related to that one word of that arati. So one bhajan that's coming to my mind that I would like to sing together with all of you, it's an English bhajan. So when we sing this line, Sashivadana Shrikara Sarva Pranapate, the Lord of all our breaths. You are the Lord of my heart and my soul. Lord of my heart and my soul. Lord of my life, it's beyond my control. Lord of my life, it's beyond my control. Open my heart to your love. Open my heart to your love. Once I have seen you, Lord, heard you and touched you. Once I have seen you, Lord, heard you and touched you. How can I live in this world without you? How can I live in this world without you? Open my eyes to your light. Open my eyes to your light. Sai Ram, let me see you. one, let me serve you. Sai Ram Bhagavan,
Sai Ram Bhagavan,
Sai Ram Bhagavan.
Sai Ram Bhagavan.
You are the Lord of my heart and my soul. Then the next stanza is Mata Pita Guru Devam. This is where the words really start to get into that pure Telugu language. And we should be very careful. And I'm not trying to share something with you. This is advice that I should be paying attention to myself, because when I'm playing tabla and then I'm in the heat of that moment, offering arti to Swami, I'm really not paying attention to these words. So, Mata Pita Guru Daivamu. So a lot of times I've noticed, I will just say, Mata Pita Guru Devam Mariyantayu Nive, and they'll just go like a string of words, just mishmashed all together. We should try to clearly pronounce the words. Mata Pita Guru Daivamu. Daivamu is the Telugu word for God. Mata Pita Guru Daivamu Mari Antayu Nive. That means, Mari means mine, Antayu is you, Nive means you are. So together, Mata Pita Guru Devamu Mariyantayu Nive means, Swami, you are my mother, father, and Guru, preceptor. So we should be careful pronouncing these words. Nada Brahma Jagannatha is Sanskrit, so I'm sure that comes across pretty easily. Nagendra Shena, the one who reclines on the celestial serpent, the celestial snake in the ocean of milk. Nagendra Shena, Om Jai Jagadisha Hare. The next stanza is where things really start to get tricky. I've heard many people sing, and I've heard this mistake myself. I've made this mistake myself. Om Kara Rupa Om Jai Shiva Sai Mahadeva, or Om Kara Rupa Jai Shriyo Sai Mahadeva. Let's have it clear that that word is actually a Telugu word there, Ojasvi. Ojasvi means king of the world. So the real wording of that part is Omkara Rupa Ojasvi O Sai Mahadeva. So when we sing it, it should come across as Omkara Rupa Ojasvi O Sai Mahadeva. And then the other place where I tend to falter is Mangala Arati Anduko. So I've also heard people say Andukha. So people understand that as Andukha means, Dukha is the Hindi word for pain, and An is like the prefix to say opposite. So when we say Andukha, we might be asking Swami to remove our pain. It's a wonderful prayer, but the actual word to be used is Anduko. Anduko in Telugu means to offer. So Mangala Arati Anduko. We are offering this Arati to you. Mangala Arati Anduko. And then the last word there, I've made this mistake myself so many times. I say Mangala Giridhari. That also, it's not wrong to say that, but the real word there is Mandara Giridhari. So Mangala Arati Anduko, Mandara Giridhari. This Mandara, who is familiar with what Mount Mandara is? Would you like to quickly go through the background of this? Quickly? Yes. So, when this world was created, there was a conflict between the positive forces, the devas, and the negative forces, the asuras. And so they wanted the nectar of immortality. And so they approached Lord Vishnu to ask him, how can the devas get this nectar of immortality? So they had to churn this ocean of milk, right? We just in the previous, see how every stanza of the Arati ties itself. Just in one of the previous stanzas, we praise Swami's Nagendra Shayana, the one who is reclining on the celestial serpent in the ocean of milk. So Lord Vishnu gave this instruction that you have to churn the ocean of milk so that this Amrita, this pot of celestial nectar of immortality will emerge. So how do you churn an ocean? You take a giant mountain and you tie a snake around it, and then on one side were the devas, one side were the asuras, and they churned this ocean. And then, so that mountain that was used to churn this ocean is known as Mandara. And that mountain, because it's floating in the ocean, it needed some base. So Lord Vishnu took the form of Kurma avatar, a giant tortoise, and he became the foundation for that mountain, and he was the one who lifted that mountain and held that mountain in place. So when we praise Swami as Mandara Giridhari, that is what we are referring to, that he is that tortoise, that giant turtle that held the Mandara mountain at the time of the churning of the ocean of milk. So Mangala Arati ko Mandara Giridhari Om Jai Jagadisha Hare. And then of course, once we have praised Swami and described all of his beautiful attributes, then we go into celestial raptures. Narayana Narayana Om Sathya Narayana 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 Om. And as we go further and further and we sing that stanza 3 times, then we become one with Swami. The speed increases, there's conch, bell, all the drums are playing, and we become one with Swami at the end of that. So when we have that bhajan session, yesterday we talked about the check mark. You start the bhajan session with an energetic Ganesha bhajan. Make everyone's attention rapt. And then you feed the slower bhajans, and then you slowly increase to the end of that check mark. And the arati is that apex, that capstone. The arati, sometimes I've made this mistake myself after a bhajan session. We feel tired and we'll sing the arati very slowly. Om Jai Jagadisha Hare. But think about it, even at the end of a bhajan session, we want to leave people with that high energy vibration. As they say in English parlance, we always save the best for last. So Arati should have the most energy of the entire bhajan session. That's my humble opinion. So as I was saying, I was very associated with Arati and this flame and fire and everything. And another thing that, we have these 5 elements that we don't realize it, but we use these 5 elements to connect with Swami. The 5 elements, we have earth. So when we worship Swami, we offer him food that is grown from the earth. And we offer to Swami, it becomes prasad. We offer Swami water that is, we offer to him on his side table, it becomes sanctified, and we accept that as tirtham. When I was a young child, in my house, I would refer to water as Ganga. And my parents tell me that that was the first word that I learned to speak. It wasn't mama or dada or anything. It was somehow Ganga. And so whenever I would want to drink something, I would say, I want to drink Ganga. And that practice actually still continues till date in my house. And somehow this word Ganga and this concept of this divine mother Ganga that flows through the Himalayas down into the Indian plains was very fascinating to me, and it captured my attention a lot. And it became, something that I began to see this abstract concept of a river as a manifestation of the Divine Mother. And so this word Ganga became so dear to me, and that even today, like at home, I would say, I want to drink Ganga when I'm speaking to my parents. And so any bhajan that contained this word Ganga started to become very dear to me. And of course, me being a percussionist, any bhajan with 3rd speed, 4th speed, I really enjoy. And so the bhajan Shambho Shankara Deva became my #1 favorite bhajan, and it still is till date. In this 26 years that Swami has blessed me to live on this planet, to sing his glory, and amongst, very humbly, maybe 1,000, 1,200 bhajans that I've come to know and learn, Shambho Shankara Deva still remains my #1 favorite bhajan. And surprisingly, Swami has shown his presence in my life through the medium of this bhajan at many, many different instances. In 2016, I had the opportunity to go to Puttaparthi to be part of the Sri Sathya Sai World Young Adults Festival. And as a prelude to that, there was the Sri Sathya Sai International Young Adults Leadership Program. Now, I'm sure many young adults have a desire, and many adults as well, would have a desire to study in Swami's school. to be students, alumni of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. And of course, I was amongst one of them. I've always wanted to study and have that close proximity to Swami. Of course, given the circumstances, that never happened. But Swami answered that prayer in such a beautiful manner. In 2015 actually, this International Young Adults Leadership Program was launched. Till date, we now have more than 1,500 young adults who have graduated from this program and are serving in their local Sai centers and in their countries as strong leaders to bring the organization forward. And so I enrolled in this program in 2016, and guess what? My wish to study in Swami school was answered, because in Parthi, so we had a 6-month online course, and then in July, right before the World Youth Festival, we got to undergo a 4-day residential course, which was held in the Hallow precincts of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. And so though I may not have studied a degree there, Swami fulfilled my wish of studying in his school. And that trip was just so magical, because after the program was done, I had the opportunity to be part of the World Youth Festival. I was part of the bhajan group. I talked a little bit about that yesterday. And additionally, I had the opportunity to be part of, I was one of the MCs for the opening ceremony of the World Young Adults Festival. So by the end of that trip, I had felt so much gratitude and love for Swami. And so the festival was over, Guru Purnima was over, and it was the last day of my trip. And I felt, I didn't even pray to Swami. In my mind, I had this one very, passing thought that, maybe Swami should, this is my last darshan and I have to catch my taxi to the Bangalore airport after this. Maybe Swami should send me off in a nice way. So, of course, any trip I've gone to Puttaparthi, I felt so sad in that last darshan. There's never been a darshan in Parthi that's my last darshan of the trip that I've left Sai Kulwant Hall with dry eyes. I've always shed tears. And so that one time I felt, maybe it'd be nice if Swami sends me off in a nice way. And anyways, I went for the session, Vedam happened, bhajan started, and bhajan session ends at 9:30, and around 9:27 they started singing the last bhajan of that session. Lo and behold, it was Shambho Shankara Deva. And in that moment, that Ganga that we talk about at the end of this bhajan, Hare Hare Gange Mahadeva, those tears of holy Ganga just started flowing from my eyes, because I felt Swami even listens to the most minute thoughts that we have at the inner recesses of our hearts. Sorry, was there a question? Saw a hand raised? Okay. So I had that wonderful experience. And then just, 5 months after that experience, I had the opportunity to travel to Doha, Qatar, to present. I was doing some research on myocardial infarction, heart attacks, and some rat mechanisms, and during my undergraduate studies in university. And I had written a couple publications, and I had this opportunity to go present this research in Doha, Qatar. And as timing would have it, the conference coincided with Global Akhanda Bhajans 2016. In the 26 years that I have been blessed to be living on this planet, I have not missed a single Global Akhanda Bhajan. And ever since I was 4 years old, I have stayed all 24 hours for any Akhanda Bhajan that happened. And so missing the Akhanda Bhajan was something that I did not take lightly. But I thought, this is a good opportunity that I'm having to progress in my career. And so I just prayed to Swami, and I decided to go. I go to this conference, and my presentation talk was on the second day, which was the Saturday of Global Akhanda Bhajans. And Doha is only, I think, an hour and a half in time behind India. And so I was listening to the live stream from Puttaparthi. And then the following day, there was a closing plenary session, and that the program was so boring. So I left the conference hall, and it was the closing slot in Puttaparthi was going on. So I came outside, tuned into the closing session on my headphones, and as soon as the arati was offered, you won't believe it, even then, if you go back till this day, 2016 closing session, the last bhajan that they sang, Shambho Shankara Deva. And so my angst of missing the global Akhanda bhajan was very much assuaged by Swami's love through the singing of this bhajan. And so I went back, and I had a little bit more of a pleasant feeling when I went back, and the program was still going on. There were talks about, all these endless talks going on. And then suddenly they announced that, we'll be announcing now the winners of this conference. Now, this was the first ever world conference of undergraduate research that was being held. And typically at research conferences, just in order to have the opportunity to present at such conferences is seen as a matter of prestige. There's usually not any awards or rankings. Just being accepted to present at the conference in and of itself is something that is a hard task to achieve. And so they said, we're going to be announcing awards. And I felt a little, I'm like, oh, whatever. I doubt I'm getting this opportunity. Like, I doubt I'm on this list. So my mind was completely zoned out. And by then, Radio Sai had posted all of the pictures from the Global Akhanda Bhajan on their Facebook page. And so I started looking at all of those pictures. And then they started announcing the winners. They said third prize, second prize. And then they said, for first prize, they started reading out the title of the news of that research study, and they said mitochondrial study of and as soon as they started saying that, my mind was just wired, because those were the words that were in my title. And then they announced, Rushi Thanawala has been awarded the first place. I went up to the stage, I received my award, but it was in that moment that I realized, when we do Swami's work, Swami says when we do his work, he will do our work. And in that moment I realized I went to this conference with pure intentions while listening to his glory. If it were not for him, again, I mentioned this not to praise myself or to aggrandize my achievements. This is solely, very humbly, to glorify our Swami, because when we do his work, he truly does our work. Swami, as we know, is God in human form. And when Rama came in the Treta Yuga, very few people, while Rama was in human form, realized that he was God. It was only after Rama left that people started realizing. When Krishna came, it was only his closest associates. Krishna, as a child, gave Yashoda the darshan of the entire universe in his mouth. And so she realized that this is no ordinary child. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so just his close associates, his family realized. In the time of Shirdi Sai Baba, maybe a few hundred people realized that Shirdi Sai Baba is God in human form. But in the time of Bhagavan Shri Satya Sai Baba, we are so blessed that he drew millions and continues to draw millions of people around the world while he was present physically in human form. There's a wonderful Qawwali that is composed by Raviraj Nasiri. I'll just sing one stanza of it. सब खुदा के बंदे हैं हम, सब खुदा के बंदे हैं हम, सब खुदा के बंदे हैं हम, सब खुदा के बंदे हैं हम। तू खुदा है साई मेरा, तू खुदा है साई मेरा, साई तेरे बंदे हैं हम, सब खुदा के बंदे हैं हम, सब खुदा के बंदे हैं हम। किसने देखा है खुदा, किसने देखा है, किसने देखा है खुदा, किसने देखा है, हाँ हमने देखा है खुदा हमने देखा है, हाँ हमने देखा है खुदा हमने देखा है। दूर रह के भी पास सबके रहता है, दूर रह के भी पास सबके रहता है। पुट्ट परती में खुदा तेरा रहता है, पुट्ट परती में भगवान रहता है। साई तेरे बंदे हैं हम, साई तेरे बंदे हैं हम, साई तेरे बंदे हैं हम, साई तेरे बंदे हैं हम। सब खुदा के बंदे हैं हम। We are all the closest friends, the closest associates. We are the disciples of Khuda, God himself. Khuda in Islam is known as God. किसने देखा है खुदा, किसने देखा? There is a question being posed. Who has seen Khuda? In Islam, God is worshipped as the formless, the nirakara aspect of divinity, Allah, God Almighty. So this question is being posed. Who has seen Khuda? Then we, the Sri Sathya Sai devotees, respond with humility and pride, saying, Humne dekha hai, humne dekha hai. Yes, we have seen God in human form. So that is, we are so lucky that we are in Swami's fold. When I had the opportunity to MC the opening ceremony of the World Young Adults Festival in Sai Kulwanthala in 2016, I had the privilege to introduce Swami as a speaker right before his divine discourse. And so I said, I don't know, I had a script, but some power just took over me at that moment, and I said, in Swami, we may feel that we have done so much good karma in our past lives, so that we are able to be in the fold of Sri Sathya Sai Baba, to be members of the Sri Sathya Sai International Organization. We may have done so much of good karma, but in fact, the power of the name and form of Sri Sathya Sai is so great that all of that punya that our ancestors have done for more than 7 generations is extinguished in just hearing the name Sri Sathya Sai one time. Anything that we have received beyond that is verily the divine grace and the will, and because Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba has chosen us, handpicked us to be in his divine mission. And so whenever we feel crestfallen, and this is something that I need to remind myself, in fact, whenever we feel crestfallen, we should know that this is the most prized possession that sages have done penance for thousands of years to attain, to have the darshan of God. We are able to freely have it by looking at pictures. Even Shirdi Sai Baba, his voice was not recorded. Rama's voice was never recorded. We don't know how their voices looked. Even the beautiful statues of Ganesha and Krishna and Rama that we have, they are but the kalpana, or the imagination of the artists. But with Swami, we can wholeheartedly say, this is how the voice of God sounds. This is what God looks like. We may question, why did Swami come in such a simple human form, wearing a simple robe with a crown of hair? If Swami came with a crown, with the real crown, and garlands and necklaces and 4 arms and a shankha, chakra, gada, I'm sure we would have put him in a museum showcase by now. But he came down, when we, at the end of this arti, right, tying back to what I was saying, we sing this Narayana, Narayana, Om, and we use this word Narayana in so many bhajans. Yes, it's a name for Lord Vishnu, but what does this word Narayana really mean? And this just goes to show how powerful, when we sing Swami's name, when we sing bhajans, how much power and potency is there in every single word that we are singing. If we take the word Narayana and we break it apart, Nara and Ayana. Nara means man or human, and Ayan is a Sanskrit suffix which means elevation. So Narayana is one who elevates man. So God has descended for the ascent of mankind. And so we should be so grateful to Swami. Yes, Vishal, did you have something to ask or mention?
No, it wasn't really a question. So I know that we are running a little bit short on time. and we could listen to you go on and on for hours because your stories are truly amazing. And it really focuses on one of my favorite topics, which all ties into bhajan and bhajan singing. But I don't want today to pass because we only have you for such a short period in Trinidad. And for those of you who are not aware, not only is Brother Rushi an accomplished bhajan singer, but he is also a bhajan composer. Many of the newer bhajans, the newer Sai bhajans, have been written by him and also another dear friend of mine, Brother Siddharth Shivakumar. And you mentioned that one of your most, your first word was Ganga. And I know that you have written a bhajan, Hare Gange Jaya Ho, because I've heard it before. So before you leave today, I just want you to probably do one of your own compositions for us here, if you don't mind. I'm sure everyone would love to hear. His nickname, is, by the way, is the Prince of Bhajans. I think that was on the flyer. It's just a funny nickname that was given to him because of his love for bhajans and the gift that Swami has given him, blessed him not only to sing, not only to play instruments. As you can see, he can play almost any instrument, but he can also write bhajans, and bhajans that are sung almost around the world by now. So before you close off, if you could just do that for us. We don't have too much time again.
How much time do we have?
So maybe for the discourse part and including the next bhajan, maybe about 10 minutes.
Okay, sure. So one disclaimer about bhajans that I want to give is Sai bhajans. Yesterday I spoke about the unique, why Sai bhajans? Why are Sai bhajans a unique genre of music? Another aspect that I forgot to mention yesterday is that the ways most Sai bhajans are composed is truly magical. And by magical, I mean this experience is shared by so many bhajan singers like Ravi Rajanasari, TV Hari Haran, Ajni Rai, many of whom have visited here and done programs. Sanjeev Borbora, there's so many, Delhi Nagaraj sir, there's so many people all over the world that have composed bhajans. And one common experience that mostly all bhajan composers share is that when Sai bhajans in particular are written, if I want to compose a bhajan, like Vishal said about Ganga, I have attempted so many times. Hey, I want to compose a bhajan on Ganga. So I come to my room, sit with the harmonium and start fiddling around with the keys, playing some raga, but nothing ever works out right. It is only when truly, and I do not mean to exaggerate at all, it is only literally when Swami wills are bhajans composed. I have been in the most awkward situations. I would be in the lab doing some experiment and I get some inspiration for a bhajan because we have all these instruments going on, the lab instruments, and they have a fan, and on the hum of that fan, that pitch will then sit in my mind and somehow some bhajan complete with words and lyrics will just start flowing through. And that is purely because Swami wills for that bhajan to be born at that time. And I have lost so many bhajans because when those inspirational moments come, I don't document them all the time. And I've lost so many bhajans. This is shared by so many people. But when Swami does will and we document the bhajans, that's how almost all of the bhajans that are sung worldwide are composed in this very manner. The amount of times I've sat down to intentionally compose something, it has never worked out. But when Swami wills, then these bhajans are composed. So you mentioned this bhajan, Hare Gange Jaya Ho. So this was leading up to my birthday in 2019. And for my birthday every year, we host an Akhanda bhajan. And so this was leading up to the one in 2019. And because it was going to be my 24th birthday, it was going to be for 24 hours. And I was telling Siddhu, who is my Siddharth Shivakumar, who is, I call him my musical partner in crime. And I was telling him, we need to compose some bhajan on Ganga because this aspect is so dear to me. We don't have any bhajan on Ganga, so let's compose something. Then he said, yeah, we'll think about it. He kind of took me lightly. And then it was just, I think, a month and a half leading up, and I'm like, bro, we really need to compose this bhajan. And as I just mentioned, when we intentionally try to compose bhajans, it never really happens. It's really when Swami wills. So one day I'm driving to Thursday bhajans at the Sai Center. I've just parked my car and Sid calls me on the phone saying, I have this idea for a Ganga bhajan. And I got very excited. And he sang the bhajan to me. And the words and the tune just flowed from him in an instant, as if Swami had just literally given the bhajan through him. I personally believe that, I talked about the 5 elements just a short while ago. We have the element of the akasha or the ether. My personal belief is that Sai bhajans, all Sai bhajans that have existed and currently exist and will exist in the future, are in fact all already contained in this akasha, in this ether. When Swami wills, he pulls them out one by one and sends it out through one of his instruments. And so I was sitting in the parking lot, and Sid, sang this bhajan to me. I offered a few edits, and suddenly, while he was singing, I too started getting inspired with some edits and different changes. And so with that amalgamation from my different changes that I gave and the bhajan that Sid had given the foundation, this beautiful bhajan was born, Hare Gange Jaya Ho. And as I mentioned, this Ganga aspect has been an integral part of my childhood. And so you'll notice that the way the tune is written, it's very whimsical, it's very childlike. So that kind of feeling of how a small child communicates with his or her mother, that kind of feeling is communicated through the tune of this bhajan. Yes.
Before you start, if anybody, these bhajans that are written, they are on YouTube and stuff, but it would be nice if anybody wants to record it, you can have it. You all can learn the bhajan as well, so that would be nice. So you can go ahead.
Hare Gange Jaya Ho, Hare Gange Jaya Ho,
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 Hare Jata Jut Hare Kala Kut, Hare Gange Jaya Ho,
Hare Jata Jut Hare Kala Kut, Hare Gange Jaya Ho,
Hare Jagadambe Jaya Ho, Jagadambe Jaya Ho,
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 Hare Gange Jaya Ho, Hare Gange 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 Jaya Ho,
Hare Sathya Roop, Hare Sai Roop, Hare Gange Jaya Ho,
Hare Sathya Roop, Hare Sai Roop, Hare Gange Jaya Ho,
Hare Sathya Roop, Hare Sai Roop, Hare Gange Jaya Ho,
Hare Sathya Roop, Hare Sai Roop, Hare Gange जय हो
हर गंगे जय हो हर गंगे जय हो
हर गंगे जय हो हर गंगे जय हो
हर जटा जूट धर काल कूट हर गंगे जय हो
हर जटा जूट हर काल कूट हर गंगे जय हो
हर गंगे जय हो हर गंगे जय हो
I think that was the perfect end to a wonderful satsang and discourse by you, Brother Rushi. As I said, I'm sure everyone here can listen to you for hours, but we do have time constraints, and many of us, given the COVID situation, etc., have restraints as well. So we would just like to invite everyone to join in Aarti. Brother Rushi, you can... So Auntie here would assist you, and I'll just bring back the harmonium, and we'll close off today's satsang. Thank you so much, Brother Rushi.
Thank you so much everyone for your kind and patient listening, and it was wonderful to connect with all of you. Jai Sai Ram.
ओम जय जगदीश हरे स्वामी सत्य साई हरे भक्त जना संरक्षक भक्त जना संरक्षक पति महेश्वर ओम जय जगदीश हरे शशिवदना श्रीकरा सर्वा प्राणपति स्वामी सर्वा प्राणपति आश्रित कल्पलतिका आश्रित कल्पलतिका आपद बांधव ओम जय जगदीश हरे मात पिता गुरुदैवमु मरियन्तयुनेवे स्वामी मरियन्तयुनेवे नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नाद ब्रह्म जगन्नाथ नागेन्द्र शयन ओम जय जगदीश हरे ओंकार रूप ओजस श्री ओम साई महादेव सत्य साई महादेव मंगल आरती अंदुको मंगल आरती अंदुको मंदर गिरिधारी ओम जय जगदीश हरे नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण 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 ओम नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम सत्य नारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण ओम
Satyanarayana Narayana 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 Satyanarayana Narayana Satyanarayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva Narayana Narayana Satyanarayana Narayana Narayana Jai Narayana Narayana Satyanarayana Narayana Satyanarayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Jai Bolo Bhagavan Shri Satya Sai Baba Ji ki Jai.
Come to light the lamp of love in our hearts, to see that it shines day by day with added luster. He has not come on behalf of any exclusive religion. He has not come on any mission of publicity for any sect, creed, or cause, nor has he come to collect followers for any doctrine. He has no plan to attract disciples or devotees into his fold or any fold. He has come to tell us of this unitary faith, this spiritual principle, this path of love, this virtue of love, this duty of love, this obligation to love.